My boyfriend has a wife and 2 kids, and I don't feel bad about it.
What? Hold on. Sorry.
I found out my sister is actually my mother.
Whoa. How does that work?
Welcome back to Delve Deck Stories. Today we are reading some taboo confessions, and our first story comes from Anonymous.
Ooh.
They answered, "What's something most people don't know about you?" from the original deck. When I was a kid, I tried to poison my dad.
Whoa. What? Hold on. Sorry. That was a lot. What?
That's what they said. End of story.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to kill my dad for as long as I could remember. He was a violent drunk and a drug addict, and the only peace we had around the house was when he'd disappear on a bender. When he was around, he'd beat up on me, my siblings, and my mother. We'd all been in urgent care before thanks to his violent outbursts, but my mother demanded we give medical staff fake stories about injuries. She told us if they found out the truth, we'd all be taken away and separated from one another. I didn't want to be responsible for that.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's a rough situation.
So he did deserve it.
Yeah. I begged my mom to leave him, and she tried a few times, but she kept going back to him. I couldn't understand it. I felt like him dying would be the only way to get rid of him. I knew I couldn't overpower him, but I thought a lot about poisoning him. I tried small things first. I think around 6 or 7 when I made my first attempts. That's very young.
Whoa.
I don't think I knew about poisoning when I was 6 or 7, but I don't know what I knew at that age. So
I mean,
I feel like you have to be pretty smart to figure this out.
yeah.
I don't think I could have done that.
Also, when we grew up, we didn't really have, at that age, we didn't really have something to Google. So it'd be like, you'd have to know how to
figure this out.
go to a library and be like, hi, librarian, where do I go for the poison section?
I put powdered cleanser in his cocaine. I ground it.
Whoa, I was... What?
Yeah. 6 or 7.
I got so many more questions now.
Bricks on bricks. Yeah. I ground up Unisum and put it in his whiskey. None of it did anything. I didn't know if these things would definitely kill him, and even if they could, I didn't know how much of it would be needed to get the job done. Also, I think he just has a high tolerance.
Yeah, maybe because of all of the things he's put in his body already, he's like, I'm indestructible.
Cleanser, no big deal. Trying to poison him was dangerous. If he found out, things would get violent quickly. I needed him to die, and I needed to not get caught in the process. Simply injuring him was only going to make things worse if he realized I was behind it or thought someone else in the house did it. I started reading true crime stories.
That's how you either learn to avoid crimes or do them.
I was looking for stories about poisoning, but none of them involved things I knew how to get. One woman killed her husband with a toxic plant. Another woman did it with prescription drugs. We had drugs in the house for sure, but not the kind I could kill him with. Maybe the sleeping pills, but my first try with them was a bust, and I suspected it would require a pretty high dose to work, so that wasn't going to be an option.
I feel like I learned from Breaking Bad that you can make ricin from apple seeds, I think.
Should have watched Breaking Bad.
So that's something.
The answer ended up coming to me in the most unlikely way, a rom-com movie. I was probably about 9 years old at the time and alone in the house with my 3 younger siblings. You were reading true crime at way too young of an age, but I also understand that you had a very traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
This was a fairly common occurrence when I was a kid. My parents would disappear for a few hours, sometimes even an entire day or night, and I'd be left with my younger brothers and sisters to babysit. My 8-year-old sister was watching the movie Wedding Crashers, and it had a scene with the characters poisoning a man with eye drops. I don't remember this scene.
No. The scene was they put eye drops in Bradley Cooper's character's glass, and Bradley Cooper ended up getting what seemed to be like some sort of stomach. I don't know if you can poison people, as far as I know.
With eye drops?
Yeah, but it's in the movie, it made him just seem like he had diarrhea and he had like some stomach problems, like food poisoning almost. But it seems weird because eye drops are just...
You put them inside your body.
Yeah, so I don't see how it would cause...
I don't really I do
no,
vaguely...
that's the scene, but nobody gets poisoned. They
scene.
just end up getting like diarrhea.
Well... This person's 9, so...
Unless they're going to say that it was that Visine scene that gave them inspiration to do something else.
I wondered if that could finally take my dad out. I searched our bathroom for eye drops, but found none. I was determined to get my hands on some. For the next few weeks, I looked for eye drops in every medicine cabinet I could get at. If we went to a relative's house, I'd check their bathroom. If I went to a friend's house, I'd look there. I started plotting to sneak off to a drugstore to shoplift some. But then I spotted a teacher using some at school one day. I feel like eye drops shouldn't be that hard to find.
Pretty easy. But they are, I will say, they are protected at like a CVS or a Walgreens.
Sure. But I feel like everybody's got eye drops. Right?
I've got eye drops in my backpack right now.
Well, uh-oh. What for? I saw her tuck the bottle into her desk drawer and thought that was my best chance. I left the cafeteria to use the bathroom at lunchtime, slipped back into the classroom, and swiped the Visine from my teacher's desk. I kept the bottle in my school bag, waiting for the house to be mostly empty again so I could drug the whiskey. That weekend, my father disappeared for days, and my mother had double shifts at the diner where she waited tables. I was tasked with watching my siblings. Once I was sure they were all engrossed in activities out of sight from the liquor cabinet, I emptied the eye drops into the more than half-empty bottle of whiskey. I put the eye drop bottle back in my bag. I disposed of it in a hallway trash can at school during the week so it couldn't be traced back to me or anyone else at home. This is very, very, plotting.
I'm surprised that you threw it back in a trash can at the school. I would have thrown it in a trash can in some random garbage somewhere.
Wow.
I mean, if we're going to cover our tracks here, right?
Yeah.
Because technically it's got my fingerprints on it, you know. Again, if it's just Visine. I
still don't think that this is going to work.
Yeah. Unless, of course, you know, I actually keep on random kind of thoughts. Unless, of course, we find out it's not Visine and it's something else.
And the teacher was putting poison in her eyes.
Boom. She was like, I'm just trying to make myself stronger.
On Monday, my mother came to pull me out of school midday. My father had overdosed and was in the hospital. It worked?
What? I feel like I
feel like this is a random... This was the other thing. I was like, there's no way at some point this man is not going to overdose.
I think what happened is he probably...
Actually overdosed. Yeah. Okay.
He ended up like, I don't know, getting coke with fentanyl in it or something.
Mm-hmm. My mother was going to see him, but she needed me to watch my siblings. I silently wondered if it was truly an overdose or if the eye drops had done it. I wondered if the hospital would figure it out. I knew better than to try looking online for more info. It would be too incriminating. The eye drop bottle was gone in a trash can at school, but I had to check on the liquor bottle. Once I was alone in the house with my siblings, I checked. The whiskey was gone too. Now I just had to hope that with his raging drug and alcohol addiction, that the medical staff would attribute his condition to his habits and not my murder attempt. I also had to hope he did not pull through. Somebody, okay, in the comments, let us know if you think that this, if you know.
Can you poison someone with Visine? I don't think so.
That just seems so crazy.
I think this is just a coincidence.
I think it's a coincidence as well, but let us know what you think in the comments. In the end, he recovered, but it was also around that time that my mother decided to leave him yet again, and this time for good. That's nice.
All right, cool. So he didn't die. You're not in trouble that we know of. And the mom and the family are out.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. She took me and my siblings down to West Texas, where she had a cousin who offered her a spare room for all of us to stay. I didn't really see him after that. To this day, I still do not know if his stint in the hospital was truly an OD or the eye drops.
I'm going to go with an OD.
I'm going to go with an OD as well.
I'm also going to assume that maybe it was finally the whatever cleaning chemical that you put in the Coke.
I'm sure that
it wasn't the
Visine.
Yeah. It wasn't the Visine, but it was probably whatever was in the Coke.
Again, these are taboo stories. We're going to get some crazy shit. Our next story is from John. What's the wildest plot twist you've ever experienced in real life? From our Allswin Beach Ball. I found out my sister is actually my mother.
How does that work?
I was always told I was a late in life surprise. My parents were in their 40s when I was born. What I did not know was I was technically their grandson. My older sister, Molly, was already out of the house before I was a toddler. She was 17 years older than me and moved out the year I was born, so I never really got to know her very well. She was touring in a band and rarely came back to see the family. I never explicitly asked my parents if they were my real parents because who does that? But they also never volunteered that they were not. I would say growing up with them was pretty normal. Molly came back once in a while, but she didn't get along great with my parents, so she didn't hang around for that long. And when she did come back, her visits usually ended in a fight. She never seemed terribly interested in me.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
so obviously she didn't want a kid, and the parents decided to keep the baby instead, which sounds like it's probably a better situation for you.
Yeah. Probably had this child like very young.
Yeah.
And they're like, you need to go live your life or be an adult before you can even have this responsibility, and we'll take care of this child.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like she like didn't care either.
Yeah.
If she's like not coming home and being like, oh, my little brother, she's just like, whatever.
But also, the grandparents were in the 40s when she was
17.
born, right? Yeah. So, like, even they seem like they could be young parents.
Well, 17 to 40 would be what? 23? It's younger,
Yeah.
In my mid-20s, a bunch of my friends were doing Ancestry.com to learn more about their heritage, and I decided to join in. My parents never told me a lot about our family history, and we were not close with extended family. I was curious what I could learn. This is how it always happens.
Yep.
If you are lying to your children about who they're actually related to, they're going to find out. It's all out there now.
Yeah. You're going to look and they'll be like, oh, actually, you're the half relative of this person, this person, this person. And then you find out that you've got a bunch of siblings you never knew about, you know?
Yeah. A few weeks after I tested, I found out I had a half sister, Emily, who was 5 years younger than me. This made no sense. My parents were married. They were definitely married during the time this sister was born. Had my dad cheated on my mom? Did he have a secret family? I was pissed. This seemed like a massive thing to keep from me. I messaged Emily and expressed my shock at having a sister. Wow, I wrote, this is a huge surprise. Do you know our father? Did you know he was married to my mom when you were born? She replied, I am confused. Of course I know my father. He and my mom have been together this entire time. Maybe he had you with your mom before he met my mom? He never told me about you. Yep. I was pissed and immediately called my dad. Why didn't you tell me about Emily? Does mom know about this? I shouted before he could even say anything. I have no idea what you are talking about, my dad said, confused. This is such a horrible conversation to end up in.
Nobody knows anything.
Yeah.
Because all of these people are living separate lives.
Yeah.
And then there's this other larger secret of like, we're not actually your parents,
yes.
You know?
I know you have a secret other family. I took a DNA test and found my half-sister. I can't believe you are still trying to lie about this. Silence on the other end, and then my dad said, John, I can assure you I do not have a second family. I don't know who Emily is, but she isn't my kid. You and Molly are my only children. I think I know what this is about, though. Can you come over tonight? I was like, if you know about it, why can't you tell me now? Also being like, man, what a horrible situation. Don't lie to your kids.
And he's still saying, you're my only children. Come over.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like, all right, I guess I understand the sense of like not trying to like reveal this over text, but it's not helping the situation by saying that you're our only children and then being like, all right, now come over tonight and we're really going to blow up your world.
Yeah. He replied, it's a lot to explain, but I would prefer to do this in person. For now, I can assure you that if you do have a half sister out there, it's not because of anything I did. We can talk about it tonight. My mind swirled all day about the possibilities. Did they have me with a sperm donor? Did the DNA site make a mistake? Was I adopted? Did my dad have a secret twin? So many, yeah, this would be a crazy situation to be in. I went over to my parents' house that night and they told me the whole thing. Molly had me her senior year of high school. They never met the guy who got her pregnant. He was some touring musician and Molly didn't know him well or even have a way to contact him. She didn't want to raise me and my parents agreed to take me and raise me as their son. Emily's dad was the guy who had gotten Molly pregnant.
Boy.
This is
how
messy.
It all comes together.
I understand not telling the kid like when they're super young, but at some point you have to.
Yeah, you got to reveal to say, FYI, we ain't your parents.
Yeah.
We're your grandparents.
Which is still like, that's
yeah.
great.
But also, I would also say this, like, whose place is it to say? Is it the grandparents or is it the mother
I don't know. I feel like at this point, the grandparents might as well do it because this mother doesn't seem to want to be involved or have a close relationship. But let us know in the comments who you think.
That also changes that relationship. Be like, oh, now whenever I see him, like, you never wanted me. Or,
this would be a very upsetting thing to find out. I met up with Emily for coffee a few days later, and she told me about our dad. He'd been a touring musician before settling down with Emily's mom and having her and her brother. Through Emily, I met my half-brother and biological father and more extended family on his side. It was such a strange experience. I also confronted Molly about it, laying into her for lying all these years and having so little interest in me, her only son. In her usual aloof fashion, Molly didn't have much to say about it. She said she was sorry I was hurt, but that my grandparents were better equipped to care for me than she had been, and leaving me with them was the best thing for me. I am still pissed off about it to this day and rarely talk to her now. I think all of that can be true, and you can, like, still be a nice older sister.
Yeah. But the fact that she would interact with her, see her, you know, at different times of the year, or see him at different times of the year, like, it just doesn't make any sense, like, how you could still do that and not ever try to, like, make some connection. Yeah. And then when confronted, be like, oh, well, you're better off with your grandparents. And it's like, that's the reaction you have?
Yeah. It feels too neutral.
Yeah.
I've tried to get over my resentment towards my parents, especially as they are getting quite old and I don't know how much more time they will be around. They told me they didn't want to tell me when I was younger because they didn't want me to feel abandoned or hate Molly. And then as I got older, they felt like it was too late to say something. I understand that feeling, but, like, you need to say something.
Also, they're not getting that old.
Well, we don't know when this
They were
happened.
40 or so when they had him.
Well, we don't know how old John is.
Okay, well, I mean, let's assume that he's, like, at the oldest. Let's say he's 20 years old.
He did Ancestry.com in his mid-20s.
Oh, okay. Then his parents, grandparents, whatever, they're like 65 then. That's not old.
We don't know when that happened. This could have been, like, 20 years ago.
All right.
Yeah, if you're hiding something like this, just have a nice conversation because they will find out because we have technology. I've become closer with my bio dad's side of the family, which has been nice. I have more of a relationship now with my half siblings than I ever did with Molly.
And at least the father, who didn't know that his mother was pregnant, is accepting, is like, oh man. It seems like that. Like,
yeah, it seems like it's a better situation on that side, at least. Our next story is from Jane. What's something most people don't know about you, from the original deck? My boyfriend has a wife and 2 kids. They don't know about me, and I don't feel bad about it.
I mean, when you're gonna mistress, just mistress, you know?
Mistress is gonna mistress, you know?
I mean, don't let it stop you. If that's what you're into and you've accepted it, I guess there's no fault in you.
I guess. I think there's mild fault. The most of the faults is in the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Obviously.
For sure.
I met my boyfriend, we'll call him Richard, at a conference.
He was a
I'm kind of sounds like it. We had instant chemistry and ended up getting drinks after the networking events. That night, he revealed to me that he has a wife and 2 kids, but that their marriage was basically for show at this point. He didn't want to get divorced because he knew his wife wouldn't allow him to see the kids again, and they hadn't signed a prenup, so he would get really screwed over financially.
What?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Well, I understand not wanting to get screwed over financially, but also, like screw you.
Yeah, but also, like, how much money would you be, like, screwed over financially?
I guess I don't know how rich he is.
God forbid you have to split things with the person that
you
bore
are
your
cheating
children.
on. Yeah, right. He was also pretty sure she was cheating on him as well, since he travels so much for work and it would be easy for her to do. This sounds like he's just justifying.
Yeah, he's like, oh, well, she could totally do it, so I'm definitely doing it. Yeah, I don't know about that. I know it sounds bad, but I felt for him and honestly thought it was kind of hot. He ended up coming back to my hotel room that night and we had an amazing time. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. That night, I learned that Richard is the CEO of an early stage consulting company, which is why he was traveling so often. After the conference, he had to go to Japan to meet with some investors. He asked if I would join him. My work is mostly remote, and I'd never been to Japan before, so I figured, why the hell not? As if I was going to turn down a free vacation. That week was incredible, and I didn't want it to end. After Japan, he had a trip to China, which he also invited me on. Then he had to go back home for a month. I figured after China he would be sick of me and would return to his life, but that didn't happen. We ended up falling in love and have been in a relationship for almost a year. Listen, you do you. I feel like he is lying to you as well. I don't know.
I feel like this is when a guy is having an affair and then the mistress is like, will you leave her for me? And they're like, oh, yeah, I will. But it's just like not the right time.
Not the right time.
I will. I swear. I promise I will. And then that keeps going for months, years, whatever.
Yeah.
And then that woman says to her friends, well, he's going to leave his wife for me. And they're like, girl, no.
He's not.
Never going to leave.
He's not going to leave, especially a year. Oh, dear.
It sounds like this financial aspect of this no prenup is the main reason he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
And once he does, then he loses whatever amount of money he had, or he had to split it 50-50. But it feels like he cares more about the money
than anything else. Definitely. Because of Richard's schedule, he spends 1 month at home with his wife and kids and 1 month traveling. During the month he is away, I miss him dearly, but we have an agreement that our relationship is put on hold and we can both do whatever we want. I know it don't
what? Whatever we want. He's either got his wife or he's got another girlfriend going on.
Yeah.
He's got a local fling.
Yeah.
And then he's also got you. It's like, how many? If the dude is doing it for one person, just imagine how many other women he's doing this with.
I know a don't ask, don't tell policy sounds toxic, but I am free to hook up with whoever I want, and I've never been the type of person who has cared about monogamy.
You say that until the point at which you're like, oh no, you're all mine. I won't share you.
I mean, I'll believe you that this is a good situation or setup for you right now. But
someone's gonna slip up. Someone's gonna have feelings. Someone's gonna reveal something.
Yeah, these things do have a way of getting messy. No one in my life really knows about this because I know they would all judge me. I'm not close with my family, and my friends know I have a boyfriend who I travel with and have an open relationship with, but they are not aware that Richard is actually married with kids and cheating on his wife.
At a certain point too, I feel like if I were your friends, I'd be like, hey, invite Richard out, or whoever she says this guy's name is. Let's go out for drinks. You've been dating for over a year.
I think that she only ever sees him when he's traveling. I think that
I know,
they just are never in her world. That's the other thing. I'm like, he's never in your world. You're always a part of his world. Like, that's...
Well, it's convenient for him in his world. He won't go out of his way to be like, yeah, I'll spend the weekend at your place with your friends, going out, doing brunch, whatever. You know, again, if you're okay with that, that's whatever. That's on you. But I also feel like there is a disconnect there to be like, I can't ever share you with my life.
Yeah, there's a power dynamic there.
Yeah.
I am well aware this could all blow up in my face someday, but we are extremely careful and don't ever message each other while he is with his family.
They've got burner phones. They use different emails. They've got different computers. Like, it sounds like too much work.
Yes, it sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Sometimes he talks about leaving his wife and marrying me, which I guess I would be open to. But I love him so much and I'm okay with whatever situation works for him. This is why it's a power dynamic.
Yeah.
Like, you're giving up so much.
Yeah. She thinks that she's actively making the choice to be like, well, if he wants to leave her, he can, and we could totally get married. But I don't feel like we need to.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds really messy.
All the sacrifices seems to be put on her end.
Yes, that's a big problem. Yeah. There's a lot of problems, but that's a big problem.
One of the many red flags, but it's a bigger one.
I'm also not totally convinced his wife isn't aware of the situation, but chooses not to say anything because she is either cheating or using him for his money, so it works well for her too. Everyone has their secrets after all. I feel like he's saying this, like, oh, she's using me for my money.
Like,
this dude's obsessed with money.
Like, it very well, it could be those things. It also could be the fact of, like, the mother/wife is like, I don't want to separate because I don't want to do that to the kids. And you're already here only 6 months out of the year. So, like, if we get divorced, like, you won't see them anymore. And, you know, it could be the fact of, like, the mother's like, I don't want to, like, blow up our family, or at least I want to wait until the kids are older, or, you know, something like that, where, like, they're thinking about, like, the kids in terms of, like, that relationship, maybe.
And he's not around very often. And if he does make a lot of money,
Yeah.
You could be like, whatever, I can tolerate you 6 months out of the year. I don't know about this.
Also, doesn't sound great for the children. This sounds like a really messed up relationship.
Sounds toxic all around.
Yeah.
Our final story comes from Patricia, and it's what life experience drastically changed your thinking on something from our original deck. Becoming a stripper changed my life for the better. Hell yeah.
Good money?
Good money.
I don't know.
Maybe she just likes it.
Maybe.
Growing up, I was a really smart kid and a straight A student. My parents would always talk about how I was going to grow up to be a doctor or a lawyer. While they never explicitly told me I had to follow one of those career paths, the underlying message was very loud. I was meant to go to a good school, get good grades, and become an adult my parents could brag about. In addition to excelling academically, I was also involved in a lot of different extracurricular activities. I volunteered at our church, played soccer, was on a dance team, and even auditioned for a couple school plays. By the time senior year started, I was burnt out. Even though I got good grades, I really hated school. The idea of getting a college degree sounded miserable, let alone going to medical or law school. Still, I didn't want to disappoint my parents, so I kept working hard and accepted a scholarship to Northwestern.
It's a good school.
It's a good school.
Chicago, up north. Yeah, very good. Very good.
At Northwestern, I was double majoring in political science and philosophy. I've always been a little squeamish, so law school it was. I had some good friends, but rarely went out or had any fun because I was so focused on doing well in school. I also wasn't participating in any extracurricular activities like I had in the past, so all of my outlets for self-expression were completely gone. I hated my classes and I hated myself. That sounds rough. You gotta have fun.
Girl wants to dance.
Girl just wants to dance. Mm-hmm. Go out and dance. Then on my 21st birthday, my friends and I decided to go out to the bars in Chicago. We went to a club and I was wearing a birthday crown, so people were buying me all sorts of drinks. My friends and I were having a lot of fun, so when the DJ announced it was last call, we knew we had to find a way to keep the night going. One of my friends, Natalie, said she would take care of it. A few minutes later, she had a solution. There was an after-hours warehouse party we could go to. Great.
I'm just curious where this is. I mean, I'm from Chicago, so now I'm like, oh, what warehouse? What,
You're like,
what
I want to go.
What bar? What strip club? What do they do? Not that I fancy strip clubs or anything like that.
He was like, where's she at? Where are you working, girl?
Where is it?
I wasn't sure what to expect. Maybe through this story, you can tell us if you've been here.
Yeah. There's only one strip club that I know of in Chicago because it was right along the river where I used to row, like what I would row in high school, and it was called VIPs.
You were rowing in high school?
Yeah, I was in crew.
All right.
Wow, dude, I went to nationals. I'm ranked.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. No big deal.
You and the Winklevoss twins.
You know, didn't have a Facebook on my end, but
that's like the only thing that crew means to me.
Yeah.
The Winklevi. Yeah. I wasn't sure what to expect, but when we walked through the door down a secluded alley, my mouth dropped. Loud music was playing, people were dancing, and there were strippers everywhere. The space had multiple stages, and each one had a pole and a naked woman dancing on it. I had never been to a strip club before, and I was entranced. I had always assumed they were gross or seedy, but watching these women climb up the pole and perform acrobatics while shamelessly flaunting their bodies wasn't anything like that. It looked empowering. So I think this is just like a random pop-up thing. I don't think this is a legit strip club that they're at.
Well, I mean, I will say that the area that it is in is...
The strip club you know about, which is the only one in Chicago.
And now is across the street from like one of the largest Whole Foods in the country.
You get your produce, you go to the strip club.
Sounds like a balanced meal day.
My friends and I ordered more drinks and hit the dance floor, but I could not take my eyes off the dancers. I was so impressed. At one point, I drunkenly looked at Natalie and was like, "This is so cool. I'm so jealous of them. They look like they're having so much fun." She agreed with me, probably thinking this conversation would end there, but I was coming to a major realization. Why am I even in school? I asked her. I could be doing this. I used to dance. I could totally do this. And since I was drunk, I kept saying this over and over and over again. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a dancer. Finally, another friend was like, "If you want to do it so badly, then get up there." I sighed and protested. "No, I could never. I wish, but it's not in the cards for me. I have to go to law school." You don't have to.
Yeah.
Nobody has to go to law school.
Yeah. Sounds like you got debt and you got to pay it off.
Yeah. Next thing I know, Natalie is tapping me on the shoulder. I turned to look. Come with me, she smiled. I remember wondering what she meant, but followed without asking. She dragged me over to one of the stages and waved at the stripper. Suddenly, I understood. No, Natalie, come on. What are you doing? This is so embarrassing. I tried pulling away, but the stripper was already bending down at the edge of the stage. Are you Patricia? She asked. Yes, I managed to say. I'm Jen, she said, and held out her hand. Without really thinking, I took it. She led me onto the stage. I had no idea what to do. All these people were staring at me. I remember thinking, oh no, what have I done? And then something else kicked in. I just had to do it. I started moving to the music and attempted swinging around the pole. I feel like that's really hard to do. You probably weren't.
The amount of leg and core strength to work a pole, of like to climb up, go around, spin around, like bravo. It is a whole other
It's a very impressive skill.
I also just wish that she would go, she's like, guys, I won't do it. And then she busts out this like crazy
she's
routine.
Like really good immediately. Jen was dancing with me as well and then pulled me in close and whispered in my ear, take your dress off.
What?
And it is a strip club.
This is turning into more than just a strip club. It
you
just
take your clothes off at a strip club.
Yeah, I know, but it just feels weird to have it with like a normal patron.
With a normal patron. Yeah, well, it sounds like this got hooked up by her friend Natalie, who just has all of the hookups.
She's like, you, her, dance now,
Dance.
stage, let's go.
Yeah. I felt like my brain was breaking in half. One side said, take off your dress in front of all these people? No way. And the other side said, just do it, girl. So I did. It was terrifying and empowering and the most fun I'd had in my entire life. Bearing it all and having people cheer sent my self-esteem through the roof. I danced with Jen for another song and then she led me off the stage, but not before giving me some of the tips we'd made. That's nice of her.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Profit sharing.
You earned it. She winked. Good for you. You did it. You
Is
know?
that it?
No.
Oh.
When I woke up the next morning, I felt like I had a new purpose in life. I started looking for pole dancing classes and signed up for one nearby. After graduating, I moved to Chicago and got a job stripping at a club. Across from Whole Foods?
Could be. Oh, wait. So she wasn't in Chicago at this time?
She wasn't living there.
Oh, but she was going to visit.
Yeah, they went into Chicago for her birthday.
Got it. Okay.
And now she works there, maybe across from
maybe
Whole Foods.
VIPs. I'm just saying.
Only strip club in Chicago.
I'm just saying. It's the only one that I've ever heard of. I mean, I'm sure there are obviously other strip clubs elsewhere, but like, I only know that to be like the premier strip club in Chicago.
So you better work at that one.
Bam.
I know a lot of people see this as a negative or depressing career. I used to think that way too, but it is the exact opposite for me. It took me a while to admit what I was doing to my parents, and I'm still not sure that they fully support it, but it makes me feel happy and confident, and that's all that really matters to me.
Yeah.
That is all that matters in life. You can't live your life for your parents.
Yeah.
And if your calling is to be a stripper at the one strip club that exists in the entire world, then you should do that.
That's what hey man, you gotta be you.
That's it for Delve Deck Stories. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, you can like, subscribe, and check out some of our other videos. And if you have a story you would like to share with us, you can go to share.delvedeck.com and maybe we'll read it on a future episode.